All right, everybody, we are here with Joe Stapleton talking Trapped, the comic book. Uh, what's up, man? How are you?
Oh man, I am great, but man, is it busy? I mean, look, it's better to be busy than not be busy. But we got NAPT. We just did the Poker in the Ears podcast this morning. After NAPT, we've got Brazil coming up. We've got the Brazilian the BSOP. We've got not UKIPT Nottingham is coming up. We've got EPT Prague is still coming up, and I mean, I'm leaving in less than. I know it doesn't sound that stressful, but my flight to Vegas is like 23 hours from now, and I'm
Oh,
just
yeah.
trying to get it all done. We got big game happening. We've got the 5K NAPT main event. We've got a run good event happening now at the NAPT. We got a mixed games festival. We got big game auditions. It's nuts. Things are
Yeah.
crazy. That's a much longer answer than you wanted, Mo. Do we have any time left?
Yeah, we have plenty of time, Joe. Don't worry. We have
Okay.
plenty of time. We can talk all about these things. Go each one by one. But that's crazy, man. You've got a packed schedule. That's wild.
Yeah, it's and like hey, it's good to be wanted, right? It's good that I got PokerOrg that wants to talk to me.
Yes,
It,
sir.
it's good that I have random fans writing to me with their poker screenplays and asking me to read them for them, which uh I begrudgingly agree to do on occasion because I feel like I got to give back a little bit to people, but
Right.
it's good. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, take a breath. This is a lot. Wow, you've got a lot going on. It's making me stressed out just hearing about it.
Where are you at, Mo? How are you? Do you want to tell me about you a little bit?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm here in Boston, Massachusetts right now, where I grew up. I'm actually in my childhood bedroom right now. You can see some
Which line are you on?
Which what?
Which line are you on? Red line, green line, blue
Oh,
line?
Green Line, my friend. Yeah, I live
Green
in
line.
Charlestown.
You live in Alston? Oh, Charlestown.
Charlestown. So the closest is Green Line, but it's
That's a
not.
long way. Charlestown. Yeah, Charlestown is isn't Charlestown where the movie The Town takes place with all the bank
Yes, sir.
robberies and stuff? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I
Yeah.
went to I went to Boston U, so I was a Green Line guy myself.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's the big Green Line there. That crazy one with all the stops, and it literally
The
goes
C, the D, the E, yeah.
50 yards and then stops every time. Okay, that's cool. I didn't know that. You went to BU. That's great.
That's me and $150,000 of government money
Yeah.
went to BU.
Yeah. Well, was it a good time? Did you like the city?
I loved the city. I had a great time in the city. It's a perfect, in my opinion, city for a college kid who's like
Mm.
never really been on their own before because it is a city, but also it's not going to like chew you up and spit you out the way like New York might or San Francisco might or Vegas might.
Yes,
So it's a good starter city. I loved Boston.
it is. Yeah, it was a good starter city is a really good way to put it. It's kind of like a soft launch for cities.
Yeah.
It was a great place to grow up in. Yeah, fantastic. Really, really loved it, and got very lucky with the timing because all the good sports teams were crushing at that time. So my childhood was just championship after championship, and going to a bunch of parades and all this stuff.
So I went to I was at BU when it was like Roger Clemens versus
Mhm.
Pedro Martinez. And I recently did last year, I did a gig in Boston in the Seaport, which is like, wow, really nice now. It wasn't like that when I went there.
Yeah.
And I always like to start off all my gigs with like something local, something to like grab the crowd and like get them. And I started off by doing like a Yankees suck joke, a Yankees suck Jeter swallows joke. And I was bombing. It just was like not playing with the crowd. And I look around and like the average age of everyone in the crowd's like 23 years old. And I'm like, this reference is from before they were born. Like it's so hard being old and being like, no, 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 dude, this thing that you think that like everyone's gonna get, they have no idea who Derek fucking Jeter is. And Yankees suck, Jeter swallows. It's a little homophobic for Gen A
Yeah.
or Gen Z. They don't really like those kinds of jokes. So
Absolutely.
I completely tanked. A friend of mine from high school came, two friends from college came. I fucking bombed so hard. I laid awake in my bed till 5 o'clock in the morning, just completely regretting every decision I made that day in the
Oh well.
Seaport.
If my friends had been there, we would have been laughing at that joke for hours.
Okay, good.
Yeah, we would have got the reference, and we would have really appreciated it.
All right, well, good. Thank you, Mo.
Um, that's cool. I mean, it's cool that you like work in the local jokes into your stand-up routines. That makes a lot of sense. Get the crowd on your side, get people sort of trusting you a little bit, I guess. That seems like a good tactic.
Yeah, they trust you, and they also not just trust you in like in a like, oh, we like this guy kind of way, but like in a way where they basically when a comedian takes the stage, there's always a few minutes that like or a few seconds, whatever it is, where the audience is worried about you.
Mm,
And what I like to do is do a joke that they think I just kind of made up on the spot because they go, "Oh, we can trust this guy. We
mm.
know that we're in good hands here." Obviously, that backfired in Boston, but typically, just like one or two like pop pop that shows I was like paid attention on the way in. You know, on the drive over, I was like, "Oh, there's an Arby's outside. Let's do the joke about the Arby's." People are like, "Oh, he just made that up now," and that gets them on your side a little bit more.
Yeah, that's nice. How long have you been doing stand-up for?
Let's see. Stand up I've been doing. So it's a long story. I did it for the first time in like '05.
Yeah.
I did it for the second time in like 2011. It was it was a very traumatic experience. I didn't really
Yeah.
enjoy it, the stress of it. And then even then I only did it sporadically. It wasn't until I moved to London in 2013 that I really started to go like more than once every few months. So
Sure.
I consider 2013. So about 11 years I've been doing stand up.
Right. Okay. So you've got a lot of experience under your belt then. You know what you're doing.
I do, but not nearly as much as a real stand up. Now, don't get me wrong, like I um am a real stand up, but most of my stand-up comedian friends, that's all they do. Or they have another job, which, but it's not as demanding as the job I have in the poker world. Like, for example, I was just gone for 3 weeks. Now, could I have squeezed a set in London while I was there? Probably.
Right.
Could I have squeezed a set in Cyprus while I was there? Probably not. So, most of my comedian friends are doing comedy like 6 nights a week, and
Okay.
I'm doing it like 3 nights a month. So
Uh,
my experience level is probably still only around like I'd say like a 5 or 6 year comic, but the TV stuff helps, right? It's like it's
sure.
somewhat transferable credits if you think about it. In that
Yeah.
it's not stand up experience, but it's still experience like doing stuff in front of people, being funny and pressure, that kind of thing.
Right. And sort of being quick on your feet, witty, coming up with stuff on the fly, making jokes like right there.
It's all usable currency.
Yeah. Right. That makes sense. So those jobs sort of work in tandem. Then that's nice. Um, very cool. And poker before stand up was poker a passion of yours before stand up, or what's the timeline there for poker?
Well, I've been working in poker since like '05.
Mhm.
And I would say that it wasn't really a passion of mine so much as it was just an escape. We were poor guys living in Los Angeles and sort of I wouldn't say struggling, like nobody was starving, but we didn't have any money and we were all working, bottom tier jobs in the entertainment industry, and poker was just a way for us to get together and blow off steam. And um it's kind of true, but one of the things I love about poker is that when you I mean, we were playing $5 buy-ins at a home game, tournament poker, and when you put your $5 in, you get a full stack of chips. You're rich. You got as much money as is allowable once they
Yeah.
hand you that stack of chips. So it's a good way to sort of, it's like LARPing a little bit. Um, as a high stakes poker player, you can do that at any level. You can do that
Yes.
for $5. Like I have $5, but I have 10,000 in chips right here. And so, we would sit there and do the rub the chin and the calculate how many outs we had and yell at people for not playing right. And you've got one guy who like 4 hours into the game is always like, what's this worth? And you're like, what the fuck? We've been playing since like it's midnight. We've been playing since 7 p.m. How do you not know what a green chip is worth? um So yeah, that was it. It was like an escape. It was a way to do things with friends, and that's never really changed for me. That's still
Sure.
my main goal at a poker table is to have fun and to hang out with people and just to like disconnect from everything else for a little bit.
Yeah, which is kind of the best part about the game in a way.
Sure, yeah.
Maybe for non-professionals to be more specific is the social aspect of it, the break from the, whatever your daily grind is to go and just play a game for 6, 7 hours with your buddies
Yeah,
is
exactly.
kind of the dream in a way. Um, how often do you find yourself at a poker table these days?
Man, not often.
Yeah.
Um Trying to think the last time I actually played poker.
I was gonna say with the schedule you just outlined, I don't know where the hell you find time to go and get a session in.
Yeah, I can't remember. Uh Boy. Oh, well, when I go to the run good stops, that's I play
Sure.
poker at those stops. So like technically I was trying to think of like the last time I played in like my own sort of home game with friends. And I don't think I used to do one at my house, and I don't think I've done that one since before the pandemic.
Mm,
Um so yeah, no, I do end up playing like when I go to London for work, I'll play a little bit here. But it's all still work. It's all, as a PokerStars ambassador, it's all ambassador stuff. The like really just like cut loose couple of edibles, drinking poker game. It's been a while for me. Yeah.
yeah, which that's a bummer because those are the most fun games. I mean,
Yeah.
uh, I'm not a PokerStars ambassador, so I can't speak to how fun those events are, but I kind of doubt they're as fun as the home game with the
They
edible.
are they're fun if you're like a regular person, I think. They're just a little bit, I'm working, so I still have a really good time there. It beats a real job. But it's not the same as like, you know, everyone collecting $5 for pizza kind of game.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and you're just like still in work mode in a way. Yeah, so
Yeah,
you
exactly.
you
It's
can't
exactly it.
fully cut loose in a way. Um, awesome. So I guess then all of this, uh, the stand up and the poker commentary playing, is sort of led you to this comic in a way. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing. So something my mom can't be credited with this, but she has reminded me of this phrase that's kind of made its way around, and I'm sorry for not knowing the original author, but it's like it takes 10 years to become an overnight sensation.
Mm,
And so I've been in the poker industry for almost 20 years now, and slowly these sorts of opportunities are coming my way. For example, I'm going to open for Morgan J at the NAPT. They got Morgan J
right.
to headline a comedy show. I'm going to feature for Morgan. I'm going to feature for Michael Ian Black in Houston in November in a couple of weeks.
Amazing.
And this comic book, these fellas came to me and they said, "Hey, we're a comic book company. We want to know, Joe, you got a little bit of a following. Do you have any ideas for comic books?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." And long story short, they liked one of them. We wrote it.
Yeah.
It draws on. I think you said you were reading a little bit of it. It draws on a lot of my experiences in the poker world. And it's certainly not things that I've experienced, but certainly people that I know have experienced and people that um and so I really wanted to do a story that's for people like me, that people can relate to, that they can relate to, sort of being on the outskirts of a particular group of people, like I'm in the poker world, but I'm not like a poker player. I'm not one of these people that plays for these huge sums of money. And I think a lot of people can relate to being broke. I think a lot of people can relate to wanting a little bit more
Hmm.
than what they have already in life. And I think that, what ideally this character goes through, who is me, but a much better looking, much more handsome version of me, better shape, that's for sure. Um, is that you realize in the end, it's sort of when you go through something difficult, you realize just how lucky you were for all that stuff you already had in the first place.
Sure. Yeah. Well, that's interesting because I didn't know that the guys came to you asking sort of for pitches and stuff like that. That's pretty cool. That must have been a pretty cool feeling at the time when they were like, "Hey, we want you to be the one to sort of guide us in this realm."
Yeah, it was cool, and it was the idea that we almost ended up writing was that I had this idea that was basically like um Die-Hard fan fiction, where my ideal sequel for Die Hard that obviously they never did, and they probably never will, because of poor Bruce Willis, but
Yeah.
is that John McClane is retired. Now, it wasn't pitching it as Die Hard, but it's about a different retired cop, right?
Yeah.
John McClane's retired, and what does he do now? He lives in Las Vegas, like lots of retired people.
Mm.
And for a little walking around money, he sits outside Bobby's room, and there's a couple of poker players. They have him walk him to his car every day. He just
Sure.
walks up, follows him home sometimes if you think something shady is going on. He's doing personal security for poker players,
Oh, that's sweet.
and he just happens to be at the World Series of Poker one day when guess what happens? A fucking huge armed robbery at the World Series of Poker. Can you believe it? They're there for all the money, all the buy-ins.
Yeah.
And so I pitched this idea, and they're like, "All right, this is pretty good." And we sat down to write it. And like in the first 5 minutes, I was like, "Yeah, I don't know if there's a big robbery though. Like, how do they keep playing poker? We still want there to be poker in this. Seems
Yeah.
weird that people just like keep playing. Although if you know poker players, they probably would keep playing." So I go, "All right, guys, I tell you what. Before we get into that, let me pitch you one more idea. Let me pitch you one more idea." And I pitched them like 4 or 5 ideas, and they picked this one. I go, "Let me get one." I go, "It's loosely based on my life." And let's say there's a poker commentator, and he's like a little bit of a chip on his shoulder because he thought that he should be on like real TV, but he's not. And he's poker famous, and he kind of is he's kind of obnoxious about it, and but then he loses that. He
Mm.
loses that even, and his only option now is to play poker. Now he's going to take all the skills he's learned and play poker, but he's going to do it in Hollywood home games. So he's going to like sort of try to rise the ranks of all the private
Mm.
Hollywood underground scene. And he gets wrapped up with the wrong people, and they go, "All right, this is the idea. This is the one we're doing."
Yeah.
And so we started writing that, and it was super hard work because they're in England and I live here in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And it was also during the pandemic when Poker Stars had me broadcasting most days of the week, and the broadcast would start at like 8, 7, 8, 9, 10 in the morning. So I used to get up at 3 a.m. and write with these guys from like 4 to 7 and
Whoa.
then do my broadcasting job.
Wow.
So that, really was a labor of love. I really did. It's the first time I ever committed to anything that hard. I have a dozen screenplays that I wrote the title page of. I have like 6 different pilots that I wrote the first scene to and then
Mhm.
left behind. So this is the first thing I've ever actually finished too, which
Sure.
even if the comic was a complete flop, which I don't think it is. I think the few people have read it so far are pretty happy about it. It only went on sale retail very recently, but if it was a complete flop, I would be proud for having finally fucking finished something.
Yeah. Yeah, you have a finished product to look at and hold in your hands and see your name on it. That's pretty fucking cool. Um, yeah, there it is. Wow, it looks sick. The cover is amazing.
The
Uh,
cover's amazing. The art's fantastic. The guy I co-wrote it with, his name's Neil Gibson.
yeah,
Very accomplished, very experienced comic book writer. And even more than that, he's good at story. I'm pretty good at dialogue. I'm pretty good at characters. He's really, really good at story. So I'd be like, I don't really know where the story goes from here. And he would go, "Well, here's what needs to happen
yeah,
is you
okay.
need X, Y, and Z to happen for A, B, and C to happen." And I was like, "Oh, Mal, thank you so much. That's fucking genius." And we really did get along really well in the areas where I was not good at this and inexperienced. He was so good at it and so experienced, and really
Mm,
walked me through every step of this process. And not just the writing part, but something you don't realize is that when you write a screenplay, you go, "Here you go, the screenplay," and the studio takes it, and then they hire a guy to like build the sets, and then they hire someone to do the costumes, and then they hire a director, and then they hire a bunch of actors, and then they hire a casting director to cast. When you write a comic book, you go, "All right." They go, "All right, so what's on the wall in the room?" So he opens a drawer. What else is in the drawer? What's everyone wearing? What's everyone look like? What's the poker table look like? Where are all the chips supposed to be? And I was like, Oh my goodness, like, I can't tell you how many times I went to my kitchen table and dealt out cards and put chips out and took a picture
Mm.
of it, and I was like, "This is how the hand's supposed to look."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, so there was a lot more work that went into it than just writing it also.
Okay, that I mean, it sounds kind of stressful, but also like a fun new challenge in a way as well. Trying to
Definitely stressful and definitely at every step of the way, I was like, "Are we done yet?" Including
uh,
now the sales portion of it, where I'm just like, "Oh, now we gotta sell it. Now I gotta tweet about it every day. Now I gotta talk to Mo, and we gotta move fucking copies of this
you
comic
gotta
book."
talk to me and waste your time with this goddamn interview.
No, no, no. This is a fun chat so far, Mo. Don't don't take the last 10 years of fatigue from me personally.
I won't. I won't. I won't. It's just the rest of the world. Well, okay, but it sounds like a really good collaborative process. Like you said, you have the dialogue aspects, the stuff that you're good at, and then the stuff that Neil was good at. That was just fortunate, kind of like stroke of luck, or did you guys know that going in? Did you know that that was his strength and these were your strengths, or was that just
No, I don't think that those guys expected me to be as hands-on as I was. I think that they are used to hooking up with typically probably a slightly bigger celebrity than me.
Mhm.
Their whole business model is like they find someone with a following, write a comic book for them, they sell it to the following, and then they use that sort of success to to sell the IP to movies and TV shows.
Sure?
So because that's still huge right now is like
Pretty good
movies
business
and TV.
model.
They go, oh yeah, is there an existing IP? Does
Right.
the intellectual property exist already? So they get to go, yes, there is. Here you go. So rather than say like, oh, here's a pilot, here's a screenplay, like, no, here's a finished product, and guess what? We've
Yes.
already sold X thousands copies of it.
Yeah.
So I think they were expecting for me to give them the story and for them to like check in with me from time to time and go, "What do you think of this?" or "What do you think of that?" And for me to go, "Yeah, yeah, it seems good," or can the hero do this? Can the villain do that?"
Right.
Um, I don't think they're expecting me to write it every single, be involved in every single page like I was. And I'm really grateful for them for giving me that opportunity. I'm a bit of a control freak when it's something that my name is on and something that my face is on. And so I don't think I would have been happy with it any other way. And one of the really cool things is that part of the reason why a lot of my screenplays have failed in the past when I'm with a co-writer is that we get hung up on something pretty early on,
Mhm.
and neither one of us wants to go the other person's direction. And in writing this with Neil Gibson, Neil and I always found a compromise that we were both happy with in
Mm.
every single sticking point we had throughout this entire process, which I don't know if it's luck, I don't know if it's because we're fucking brilliant writers, or it just sort of the maturity that it takes to do things that way too. But I feel very, very fortunate that they not only allowed me to get that involved, but they also were so receptive to the ideas of someone who really had no experience doing this in the first place.
Yeah, well, I think it makes a lot of sense that they would be so receptive because you're a smart guy, you're a funny guy, you have good ideas, you have the know-how and sort of
Go on. Go on, Mo.
the detail-oriented side of things locked down. So that makes a lot of sense to me that they would want to be receptive to your help. Um, and you sort of just touched on something I wanted to talk about was you didn't have any comic book experience before this. Is that true or no?
No, I barely have experience reading comic books. I love comic books. Like
Oh,
I truly love the art and the world and sort of what comic books represent. But as a kid, I was a poor, did not have the money for comic books.
sure.
And B, they're actually when I flip the page of a comic book, my eye takes in the whole page all at once.
Yeah.
So I have a really hard like I just look, I do this, and then for someone who like wants to not have things spoiled or not have things,
Yeah.
so it's a they're it's laborious for me to read a comic book. I actually
Sure.
prefer like a novel where I can, read one word at a time and sort of go through the page in the order it's meant to be gone in. So like a lot of times I would find myself reading the novelization of comic books a lot more often
Mm.
than actual comic books. So yeah, I didn't have a ton of experience zero experience writing comic books, but none reading comic books.
Yeah, but
Sorry, not none, not much reading comic
not
books.
much.
So yeah.
So,
Um, and there's a whole etiquette to it, and there's a whole world there too. And I never want to show up, having worked in
mm,
poker, people think they know poker when they show up. You know what I mean? Like people think that they're poker experts when really they don't know what the hell they're talking about. You'll see that when you watch a movie, right? When you
yes.
watch a poker movie,
Right.
um, there is there's clearly like a voice of authority with something I don't really know that much about. So I was obviously afraid of doing that in the comic book world as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, that makes a lot of sense to be apprehensive about something that you're is maybe not your strong suit,
You'd
but
be surprised how often people are not apprehensive enough about doing shit they have no fucking clue how to do.
yeah, sorry, maybe people should be more apprehensive about
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
Um, well, I mean, from what I can tell, you kind of smashed it out of the park. So far, it's really enjoyable read, and like you said, the art is amazing, the story is great, and it really kind of flows beautifully. Like I've just been spending the last 30 minutes just scrolling on my laptop, just getting through it, and it's really enjoyable, man. Well
Well,
done.
I'm glad you like it, man. That's my whole, I obviously we just want to make something that people like and people get a chuckle out of, and that is authentic too at the same time. Like obviously there it stretches reality a little bit, but
Yeah.
something that I was very afraid of, and we had lots of back and forth over art, and I would be like, that's not how poker chips look. No one would ever turn their hand over like that kind of stuff.
Right.
Because it matters to the poker industry. And,
Mm-hmm.
like I just said about movies and shit like that,
Yep.
it just, if you're thinking about, oh, they got this wrong, then you're not in the story.
Mm-hmm. And poker players notice that stuff pretty often, right? Like no
Of
one gets
course.
away with that really. Uh, so yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Um, so you sort of mentioned, or you mentioned that Neil and his partners do this sort of pipeline comic to uh, screenplay or film or whatever it is. Is that something that is potentially in the works with Trapped, or is that putting the cart before
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say too much. Not that there's any like secrets, but like I don't want to have to explain to people like why it never happened.
totally?
In a world where where there are plenty of haters, there are plenty of people that want to see you fail. But like,
Right.
yes, as look, let's say that the journey from comic book to movie is 10,000 steps.
Sure.
The first 3 steps
Have been taken.
have been taken.
Okay. Okay.
And
So the
and the
journey has
next
started.
yeah, the next 7 steps are pretty much a lock.
Mm-hmm.
We've got things in the works. Yes, who knows? It could die tomorrow.
Yeah.
Um, but there are interested parties. There are people who have a little bit of money that
Mm.
uh, that are that
Always
are
important.
yeah that are down for this. And given that the book hasn't even really been released physically yet,
Right.
we did the Kickstarter and it's now for sale retail on their website, but like it hasn't even begun printing yet, really, right? It's December, I think, is when it's going to come out.
Mm-hmm.
Once I have these books in hand and I can go around to my friends in Hollywood and hand them out and say, hey, you're an actor. Do you think you'd be interested in this? Hey, you're a
Right.
screenwriter. You think you'd be interested? You're a director. You think you'd be interested in this? So
Right.
once I can start distributing it to my network, that's when we'll really know if we've got people interested in taking this further or not. But we do already have some calls. I already some producers are being spoken to, some managers are being spoken to. So things are going as well on that front as they possibly can right now, short of um, you know, Michael Sarah calling me and saying, "Dude, I got to play you in this movie."
Yeah.
Um, other than that, so steps are being taken.
Okay. Yeah. The ball is rolling. We can leave it
Yeah, the ball is moving.
moving. It might not be rolling yet.
Yeah, it's moving
The
though.
ball is moving. Okay, that's good. I mean, that's all I
The
wanted.
ball exists.
The potential for movement exists with the
That's right. Yes.
okay. That's all I wanted to hear because seeing something like this on I mean, I just love watching poker stuff on TV and movies. Any poker scene in any TV show, I'll watch it just because I mean, just big freaking nerd for the game. Um, Man, I mean, yeah, that's really exciting. That must be really kind of fun to be in. Like this seems like a really fun project to have undertaken. Did you have fun doing it, or was it just a lot of stress?
It's you know what? I'd be lying if I said there was no fun, but my personality type, and this is my fault, and this is no one else's. And if the guys that I did this with, I don't want them to take this personally. I don't really have fun.
Yeah,
Uh, whether it's stand up or whether it's doing poker commentary or
yeah,
whether it's writing a comic book, all I do is worry, and
mm,
then it's over.
sure.
There was 1 minute in Barcelona, and Stars was really cool. They bought 1,000 copies of the comic book
Oh, wow.
to give to the players at EPT Barcelona. And there was 1 minute where I was like handing out comic books and I was doing this and signing them for people. And people were like, oh, this is so cool. And I had that like brain candy Gleeman X moment where I was happy
Yeah,
for like 5 seconds. I was
yeah.
really, really happy. And that is huge for me.
Okay.
That's
Maybe
huge for me. I
not.
think the last time I was happy for 5 seconds was when I got verified on Twitter. I think, and that was like in 2015 or
Oh,
something.
well, back when
So
verification actually meant something.
back when it mattered a little bit, it was like
Yeah,
clearly they were opening things up a little bit. If they
I
were
mean,
letting me in.
2015, that was way back when that blue check Twitter verification was big back then. Now it's
You
like,
couldn't pay for it.
yeah,
Yeah.
now you can just
So
pay for it and buy it. It's a total joke. You had the real
yeah.
thing. I get that. That makes sense.
So yeah, so this I mean, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but yeah, so it was fun. I can recognize it was fun. I will say that moments where like you're stuck on story, and I like to go for walks
Yeah.
if I'm stuck on something creatively, and to be like going for a walk and just trying to work things through in my head, and then having that epiphany like, oh, here's how I want this story to end.
Yeah.
Oh, here's a little twist I want to put into it.
Yeah.
Those moments were pretty fun as well.
Yeah, when you connect the puzzle pieces a little bit and
Correct.
start
Yes,
piecing it
that
together.
exactly that gratification of when you snap that
Yeah.
corner in there or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're like, boom, that was it. That's where that piece needed to go. Yeah, that's a good feeling. Um, what about the future with other projects? Any do you feel like it would be something you would do again? Like maybe uh, you know, a continuation of this story or perhaps a different story in comic book form?
That's that's really I think the key for successful people is they don't stop.
Yeah.
Like I just want to do like a 5-year victory lap on this comic book and be like, "Wait, I have to do something else? I got to do more. I did something. I already did it. I fucking already did something. Why do I have to keep doing things?" Um
Yeah.
so yeah, so look, I do have an idea for a sequel for this. The problem is,
Yeah.
not the problem is, I'm just waiting for to be well received or not, or to make
Mm.
money or not. I don't want to write the sequel to something nobody cared about, nobody wanted in the first place.
Okay. Sure.
Um,
Makes sense. I mean, I think
so
I think you're gonna have to start writing that sequel because I think people are gonna care and I care, so I want the sequel. So get to work.
all right, well, I'll put Mo on the fucking mailing list.
Yeah, put me on the mailing list for real.
Yeah, it's yes, it's not just this though. There's lots of stuff. Like Stars has got a bunch of ideas for stuff they want to do. There's a new guy that's been taken over Poker Stars North America in the last couple
Okay.
years, and he's got some really big ideas for stuff he wants to do poker wise. One thing that's been pretty cool too is management at Stars. When they've seen this comic book, they're like, "Well, why aren't we making this
Right.
into a movie? Why aren't we pursuing this
Oh,
as a TV show?" And getting back into like mainstream pop culture is something that Poker Stars has been wanting to do for the last bunch of years
mm,
anyway. So if that ends up being something that we work together on, I'm all for that.
that would be so
Um,
cool.
I've I've been working on a game show for the last year or so, a game show pitch that I've been taking various places. I have a call on that in a couple of hours. Stand up, obviously, still a thing. So, I it's I wish there were more hours in a day or more days in a week or more weeks in a month. I can only do so much.
Totally.
But yes, Mo, the answer is yes, that I'm gonna
There's
never
more.
stop, never stopping,
Yeah.
as they
Good.
say.
Good. Good. We like to hear that. That's great. Is the game show a poker thing or outside of poker?
It's not a poker thing, but it's something that I think poker players would really like and can really wrap their heads around. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, poker players just tend to love all sorts of games in general,
Yeah.
right? And that sort of
Yeah, we love
puzzling
games.
mindset. Yeah. Um, well, cool, man. It sounds like you have a lot of stuff in the works, and I'm really excited to hear that. That's pretty phenomenal. Are you getting excited for NAPT, or is that just pure stress?
NAPT is yeah, is once again pure stress, but I did have fun last year once the big game was actually rolling.
Yeah.
The thing about the big game is we're doing 3 tables this time around, which means
Mm,
that is minus loose cannons. That's 15 seats to fill.
sure.
And they got to be high stakes poker players. And they got to be fun. They got to be good for TV, and they got to be free. And they
It's
got,
not
I mean,
easy.
available. And
This slim
then you
cross
got to
section.
mix and match. You got to put them at the various tables, and then so
Mm,
last year we did a qualifier tournament to audition loose cannons, and the 19 people who made it through became our final 19, and we narrowed that down to two, Nikki and Lily.
hmm.
This year we're probably gonna be, instead of starting with 19, so we have three to pick this year. We're probably gonna be starting with around 80,
Wow.
and that audition process, I mean, not to mention what it did to them. It took a lot out of me. It was like a
Yeah.
12-hour day, and we had to tell people yes to their faces, no to their faces.
Uh,
Eventually, we disappointed all but two people.
right.
And this time around,
It's gonna be
we're going to be
more.
disappointing like 77 people. Um, and that's a lot of speaking to people. That's a lot of time on camera. That's just a lot of hours in the day. So the good news is that moment where you tell someone they're going
Yeah.
to be a loose cannon,
Is really fun.
that's a pretty good moment.
Yes. Sure. That's a
And
feel
when you
good
get to
moment.
see them at the table, that's a pretty good moment. When the
Mm.
table's actually going, oh, our hard work. Oh, everyone's there. Everyone's in their seats. Oh,
Yeah.
thank Christ. All right, here we go. That moment I experienced a little bit of joy there too.
Sure.
But it's not just big game. It's not just big game auditions. I'm doing a comic book signing on November 1st in Las Vegas at First Fridays in the Arts District. I'll
Mm.
be there from about 6 to 8 p.m. if anybody wants to swing by there. Um, Robbie Straczynski has asked me to be a part of the Mixed Game Festival. I don't know how I'm going to accommodate him, and I'm going to try to do that. Uh, there's that Run Good event at the very beginning. I don't think I'll be able to play it, but I should at least be around and say what's up to the Run Good family. We've got the comedy show, obviously, with Morgan J. I'm going to have to sneak away for that to go open for Morgan. There's a players party. There's a karaoke night.
Jesus.
There is
This is all
Gronk
in
is
the
going to be
same
playing in the big
place.
game. I got to schmooze Gronk a little bit. Like, what? I'd be an idiot if I didn't try to become pals with Gronk and Nick Wright.
Yes. 100%. And will you
And
tell
then
Gronk I say
there's
hello? And
what's that?
will you tell Gronk I say thank you for the childhood memories, please? Because
Oh yeah, sure, of course. You're
big part of
yeah,
my
I mean you grew up
childhood.
in Beantown. Of
Big,
course.
big,
Yeah, I'll
big
thank
fan.
Gronk for you. No problem. Once Gronk and I are on like a first name basis for
Sure, yeah,
sure, I'll
yeah.
thank him
You
for Mo.
ingratiate yourself first. Don't worry about me.
And all the stuff that I mentioned doesn't even take into account yet that there's a 5K main event that we're going to be broadcasting as well.
Sure.
Our typical world famous live stream coverage. So, it's all a lot coming up in the next 10
Will
days or so. And it's Halloween.
and it's Halloween. Yes. Will you be doing commentary with James Hardigan for the main event?
That's right, absolutely. James and I will be doing commentary Saturday and Sunday. The big game is the 6th, 7th, 8th, so the 9th and 10th will be live broadcasting the NAPT from the late stages down to a winner.
Yeah, awesome. That's really cool. I mean, you and James kind of just crush it in the booth. At this point, I feel like what is that like for you? Is there any prep involved anymore, or is it just like you've done this so many times it's just kind of second nature?
There's not a ton of prep involved anymore. Mostly because it's not really possible. Like you can't really
Sure.
like you can walk around the field and see who's out there and sort of do
Right.
a little bit of prep in that respect. But like, on the EPT when we start from a day two and there's like 500 people left in it, there's not really a ton of prep you can do in those situations. The good thing is that we've got a really great team
Mm,
and there's a lot of people working behind the scenes to make us look good.
mm,
And so we get a lot of stuff fed to us from Poker Media, from Poker News or PokerOrg or from the PokerStars blog, and we have
yeah.
producers out there, and we've got people who are legitimate poker fans who work on the production, so they remember stuff that I don't. They're like, "Oh,
Mm,
remember when this happened?" I'm like, "How do you remember that?" Because they're real into it. So not a ton of prep, but great production.
yes, sure. Yeah. I mean, the production level is kind of crazy, and I think maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't PokerStars win a GPI award for live event production or
Best live stream we won this past GPI.
something?
Yeah, absolutely.
Best live stream, and very well deserved because it truly is the best live stream to watch. I mean, it's like professional. It's obviously professional level.
Thank you. We appreciate that. We all work really hard on it. So when people
It
can
really
recognize
shows,
that,
man.
that makes us happy.
It really shows. Sweet. Look, we've been on here for 40 minutes, which is crazy. I don't want to take up any more of your time because you're a super busy dude. I just wanted to end with one thing. I kind
Sure.
of owe you a debt of gratitude because you probably don't know this, but the reason I have this job is because of you. Uh, I don't know if you remember putting a tweet out maybe 2-ish years ago being like, do you love writing? Do you love poker? Do you want to combine those two interests? Apply to this job. And I saw that tweet and I applied, and here we are 2 years later.
Mo, I'm so glad to hear you say that. Yes, I do not remember that specifically, but I do get people that hit me up pretty regularly in DMs or at replies, and they're like, "How do I do what you do?" And I was like,
Mm,
"Look, man, there's not to be um, flippant, but you gotta just the tools are there already. You gotta write. You gotta be into it. You gotta just do your own blog, do your own videos, even if they suck, even if no one watches it. Do it. Because in a year from now, I'm gonna tweet that some organization is looking for a job,
mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
and then when you see that tweet, they're gonna go, "Cool, what have you written?" And you're gonna go, "Well, nothing. I was waiting to get a job." And I
Yes.
go, "Don't be that guy. Be the guy that has something, or girl, or woman or whichever, however you identify. But my point is, have something to show. Because that's going to put you ahead of everybody else. What did you have to show, Mo, when
I
you
had
applied?
I had some short stories and a couple screenplays actually because that's
Great, fine.
what I
Here you
studied in
go. I
college.
can write. Here you are.
Yeah,
Enjoy my writing.
basically. That was
Yeah.
basically what I said. I was like, hey, I don't know how to be a journalist or a reporter, but I can write things, so hire me.
And you
And
can clearly have a conversation with someone too, which is another big aspect
yes,
of any job is just being someone people can talk to.
yeah, it is. It really goes a long way, actually. Social skills are actually worth working on. Everybody,
Yeah, the comic you can find at twistedcomics.co.uk.
beautiful.
And I would like to plug the Poker in the Ears podcast.
Mhm.
A lot of people will be like, Stapes, when are you going to do a podcast again? I'm like, dude, I've been doing a podcast for the last 8 years for Poker Stars. So you can get
It's
that
really
on
good.
iTunes or SoundCloud, wherever people get their podcasts. We're on there, Poker in the Ears. And it's a good way to keep up with all the stuff that me, James, Poker Stars get up to. We cover it all every single week.
Yeah, wow, man, awesome. This has been really great, and thank you again for taking the time to chat. Really appreciate it.
Of, of course, Mo, a pleasure. Good talking to you, and hopefully we will run into each other face to face soon.